but yeah, they're absolutely spectacular creatures, and I did get a chance to meet them as well. Yes?
I was wondering if there's a problem with the bonobos, with the black market trade with them in the Congo, and how these particular ones came to be at the Great Ape Trust.
The question was about the black market trade for bonobos in the Congo and how these particular apes came to be at the Great Ape Trust. The matriarch of the group at the Great Ape Trust was wild caught at age approximately 8. She was not wild caught in the way that most are, but the rest of these bonobos are just have been born in this situation. And so they've been brought up in a bicultural, bi-species environment. But yes, the black market trade for bonobos is a terrible problem, and is in fact the greatest threat to bonobos. I mentioned that the food source is abundant. It's humans that are killing them off. The bushmeat trade in particular, people shoot the mother, sell it for food, take the baby, sell it as a pet. Baby bonobos are just tiny and very fragile, and they've been pulled out of duffel bags at the Paris airport and so on, being taken home as pets. And great apes do not belong in human households. They just simply, it ends badly for everyone every single time. There's a wonderful sanctuary in the Congo called the Lolaya Bonobo Sanctuary, and it's one of the causes dearest to my heart. And they rescue these babies. They go and they get them from the poachers. They have rangers who go and approach the people with the babies, who try to convince them to give the babies up. And the Lolaya gives these terribly traumatized tiny infants to what they call the mamas. And there are 4 mamas there, and they raise these babies, and these women have the babies clinging to them all over, and they graduate them by age and size until they can release them back into the jungle. And that really is the greatest hope for the survival of the bonobo, is to be able to survive where they belong, which is in the Congo, in the jungle. And so education and support for the people, because this is the reason that the bushmeat trade is going on, is that these people are desperately poor and they need a protein source. So it's got to be a two-pronged thing. It's not as simple as saying, oh, they're. I mean, it is close to cannibalism, seriously, but at the same time, these people need to feed their kids, and so it's got to be supported from various angles.
Let's hope that with this book, awareness of bonobos as apparently a more perhaps advanced version of ourselves, clearly in many ways. Is there a depth of, you mentioned getting the information from the Great Ape Trust, for people who are also into nonfiction, is there a wealth of information to delve into, to learn more about?
Why, yes, there is. Bonobo Handshake by Vanessa Woods.
Okay.
She's a bonobo researcher at Duke University. She spends much of her time at the Lolaya Bonobo Sanctuary. She's one of my dearest friends. She was one of my 2 main sources of information, scientific information about bonobos, and highly recommended Bonobo Handshake. And by that, she's talking about sex.
Sanctuary in the Congo.
I'm sorry?
Where's the sanctuary that you're speaking of?
Actually, it's at the former vacation home of I'm going to Siki Seko, the dictator, but it's in the Congo. It's in the Congo.
The same location as Poison Wood Bond.
Yeah, actually, if I can find it, I can tell you exactly where it is. But it's the former dictator. Well, yes. You land in Kinshasa, and then you travel for a few hours in past airplane carcasses and abandoned jeeps and so on, and then you enter this resort, because it was the dictator's vacation home, and that's where these bonobos live until they're able to be released into the wild.
And back to water for elephants, there's an elephant sanctuary in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Did you visit that when you were doing research?
I I did not visit them. They do not, I love their elephant cam, the Elecan, or whatever they call it. But they are very careful to keep their elephants away from display. They feel that their elephants have been on display long enough and they deserve not to be.
That's true. They allow you to be a volunteer there. That's how you get to see them.
So I went to the Kansas City Zoo and I sat outside their enclosure for a few days and watched elephant body language and basically just tried to see how they related to each other and how they moved. And I spoke to elephant trainers and elephant keepers and you know, did what I could do without you know, and met some circus elephants. But it was not the same kind of relationship as I have with the bonobos, where you know, Pam Benicia actually insisted that I bring my family back the last time. The second last visit I was there, we finished up and I went off-site for an interview, and we got a phone call from the trust saying that one of the apes, and I didn't realize at the time she was pregnant and just how dire this was, but she said she was refusing to eat unless I came back. And so they said, what time is your flight out tomorrow? Can you come back? So I went back and I explained to each of them, I had a private time with each of them and said, you know, I have to go home to my own nest and my own family now. And Pam Benicia in particular was, well, is it a soft nest? Is it a good nest? And I brought them each an apple and a Starbucks coffee for breakfast. And Pam Benicia took half of her apple, and she ate half of her apple, and then she tried to pass it to me, and she was not allowed to for USDA laws. But she wouldn't eat the rest of it until I got an apple. And then she noticed I didn't have a coffee, and so she would, no, you've got to get Sarah coffee. And I kind of lied to her. I said, no, I've had my coffee. I can only have one coffee a day. Anymore, it's no good. But in fact, I had only brought enough coffee for the apes, so that it was good enough for her. So she ate her apple with me and drank her coffee. And in fact, in that particular last moment, that was right after she said, well, you've got to bring your family to see me. We just sat and ate apples together silently, with no need to talk at that point, and that was just as touching to me as the times that we did have conversations.
You've obviously researched your novels pretty extensively, so what is the more fun part for you, the research or the writing?
Oh, the research or the writing? I don't know. It's also different because at the moment I'm out here and in public and actually dressed. And I spent 3 or 4 years as basically a hermit in my pajamas. So there's various different sides to the writing life, and they're all good. They're very different. And I'm glad for the change occasionally.
Thanks for being in Nashville.
One more question.
Just thanks for being in Nashville.
Thank you for being here. I love
That's a
Asheville.
great place.
Yeah.
When you were writing Water for Elements and writing from the male perspective, was that difficult? And if so, what was the most difficult about it, and what did you take for resource, I guess?
Did everyone hear the question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, strangely enough, that role came very easily to me, and I think it frightens my husband a little bit, but I seem to have 93-year-old man on tap. With that, I will thank you very much for coming.